Hi guys, in this video I will compare two Canon 24-105 RF mount lenses. These work on mirrorless RF mount cameras only and cannot be fitted on EF mount DSLR or EFM mirrorless. The smaller lens is a budget option that will mostly be sold as a kit lens for EOS R and RP. The L version is double the price and weight, but sports many features and better optical properties that make it worthy of consideration. So let's take a closer look. At 430 grams, STM version makes the camera and lens combination really portable. The L version at 740 grams reminds you regularly there is a bigger lens mounted on your camera. It is not terribly big, but STM version clearly wins for portability. Outside, it seems to me Canon used identical plastic for the body and extending lens barrel, as well as the same rubber on zoom rings. Both lenses have metal lens mounts, but the L version is sealed against dust and moisture, which for me is important part of lens design. Zoom glides perfectly smooth on the L version. STM lens zoom ring has slightly more resistance between 35 and 85 mm, but this might be because it is brand new and it will become smoother over time. L version has zoom lock switch which will prevent it from extending accidentally when pointed down. In a part, this is needed because of the heavier glass elements used inside it. STM version is quite light and I doubt it will ever extend by itself. L version has a dedicated manual focus ring as well as customizable ring which has physical clicks while rotated. STM lens has only one ring and with a switch you can choose whether to use it for manual focus or to control some camera function. What bothers me is that there is no manual focus switch on the STM lens. It needs to be switched on or off in the main camera menu. L lens has the physical switch. Front element accepts 67 on the STM and 77mm filter on the L version. Both dimensions are common and easy to find in camera stores. L version is delivered with the lens hood, while for the STM you will have to buy it separately. And of course, there is a matter of variable aperture. L version has a constant f4 at any zoom position, what means shutter and ISO values do not change as you zoom in or out. STM lens starts at f4 but falls down to quite dark f7.1 on the telephoto end. Here is a table how quickly the aperture falls while you zoom in. Love it or hate it, this is the price we pay for small size and affordability of this lens. Both lenses have built-in image stabilization, which, when mounted on the new R5 and R6, works together with the sensor stabilization and therefore achieves greater effect. There are different focusing systems in these lenses, STM versus USM, but honestly I could detect no difference at all. Both are lightning fast for still images and work smoothly in videos as well. In low light, STM lens might be a bit slower on telephoto, but not because of the STM motor, rather than the fact it gathers almost 2 stops less light at f7.1. Manual focus uses focus-by-wire system on both lenses. That's about it for technicalities. Now let's take a look at optical performance. Wide-angle center, both lenses are nicely sharp, already wide open. In fact, I would even give a slight advantage to the STM version, which I think is a bit sharper at f4. But let's take a look at corners. There's a lot of stuff happening here. L version is clearly better and the STM never really catches up. Notice how the individual breaks can be seen from L lens but remain a blurry mess on STM lens, even at f8. STM is also way darker due to vignetting, and you probably noticed these crops do not show identical part of the scene. This is not my error, but due to the fact STM lens has strong geometric distortion. When shooting JPEG, this would be corrected in camera, and the image would be stretched so the framing will match. Here it is with correction applied in Adobe Camera Raw. Even now, STM cannot match L version quality across the frame. At 35mm, STM still has a slight advantage in center sharpness, but the difference is really low and disappears at 5.6. Also, it already started to lose light gathering as it can open only to f4.5. In corners there is no doubt, L lens is significantly better once again. 50 and beyond, L version keeps outperforming the STM, especially in corners. In the center, STM version matches up but only at available apertures. At 85 and 105 mm, L version can gather almost 2 more stops of light and allows shallower depth of field. So altogether, while the STM lens shows impressive resolution in the center, it sacrifices everything else. L version is consistent across the frame at all focal lengths and offers constant aperture at the same time. At wide angle there is no focus shift detectable on either lens. At 105 mm, STM lens has no problems as well, and that is no surprise since its aperture starts at 7.1 only. L lens shows a tiny bit of focus shift, mostly visible around f8, but this is for close focus only. I haven't noticed it in any real-life photos. On wide angle, L lens is better. There is almost no perceptible focus breathing. STM has it more pronounced, but still a relatively solid performance. On telephoto side of the zoom, similar story. L lens has almost no breathing, while STM performs slightly worse. STM version seems to behave like a parfocal lens up to maybe 85 mm, but not beyond that. L version also appears to be parfocal but goes out of focus at some points. It is always hard to detect parfocal design on lenses with focus-by-wire systems. It is quite possible both of these adjust focus automatically even in manual mode to mimic parfocal design. It wouldn't be the first time I encountered this behavior. Olympus does this on some of its lenses as well. L version has visible lateral aberrations, but as always these are easy to clean up in post-process. After literally one click in Adobe Camera Raw, you end up with a very sharp photo without aberrations. STM doesn't exhibit lateral aberrations, but not because it's a good lens, rather than the overall lack of sharpness toward corners. As we know, lateral aberrations appear on sharp transitions of light and dark objects. When it comes to longitudinal aberrations, L version suffers more, but it does so at wide apertures on telephoto, which are not available on STM lens. Oh my god, STM has really strong barrel distortion on wide angle. I don't remember last time I saw something as bad as this. Honestly, this lens is meant to be used with in-camera correction enabled at all times. It looks much better at 35mm, where the STM is almost straight, while L version goes into slight pincushion. Similar story continues toward the telephoto side of both lenses. STM looks even a bit better, while L version retains that slight pincushion distortion. Neither lens is exactly a prime choice for astrophotography due to slow aperture, but when needed, L version will perform better. Not only it handles coma better, but delivers way sharper results in corners. At wide angle, STM lens has serious problems. This is not just vignetting, but rather the fact lens barrel blocks the view in corner of the images. I talked about this back in resolution chapter. STM lens has such a strong distortion, it is not actually 24mm at wide angle, but even slightly wider. Once lens correction is enabled in camera or in post, image will be stretched out enough to move these blacked out corners out of the frame, and therefore correct vignetting and geometry at the same time, while getting true 24mm field of view. L lens has some mild vignetting at wide angle, but this is easily corrected in post. STM lens still has some problems wide open at 35mm, but already at 5.6 cleans up nicely. From this point onward, both lenses are pretty good. Some slight vignetting returns on L lens wide open on 85 and 105, but this is to be expected and is not a problem to remove. November in continental Croatia usually means no sun for weeks, so I had to improvise with strong LED flashlight. STM lens is surprisingly more resistant to flare at all focal lengths, but neither is perfect. Notice how the L lens easily produces lovely sunstar around the light source. At comparable subject distance, focal length and aperture, bokeh is quite similar. L version has an advantage on telephoto as it can open up to f4, while the STM can focus closer and therefore put less distance between the subject and the lens. If you think you'll shoot people more, go for the L version. For small subjects like bugs, jewelry, flowers, food or similar, STM would be a better choice. And this brings us to macro. STM version has 0.13 meters closest focusing distance and 0.5 times magnification, which is considered half macro. So it is no surprise it does way better for close-ups. This is significant difference and adds a lot to versatility of this lens. Combine it with 45 megapixel sensor on the R5 and some serious cropping is possible. L version is fine for occasional close-up, but can't really compete if you regularly need high magnifications. L version produces better sunstars in most cases. Just for reference, here is how a superb sunstar looks like in the same conditions, using 51.2 lens. I can't remember the last time I reviewed two brand new lenses of the same zoom reach made by the same manufacturer for the same lens mount that have such dissimilar optical properties as these two. Clearly, the L version is better. It is weather sealed, has constant f4 aperture, is consistently sharp across the frame on all focal lengths and apertures, produces nice sunstar, and behaves admirably in all other aspects. It is a bit expensive at this point and is not exactly small and light, but quality always comes at a price. STM version would be easy to dismiss just by looking at corner performance at all focal lengths. It is worse than I expected would be. Also, geometry and vignetting at wide angle are embarrassing, and that 7.1 aperture on telephoto is a big turnoff for many users. Still, keep in mind I tested these lenses on EOS R5, which is resolution hungry with its 45 megapixel sensor. STM lens will usually be sold and used as a kit lens on lower resolution EOS R and EOS RP. Most users will probably shoot JPEG with lens correction applied. Also, it is relatively small and light for a full-frame lens and has surprisingly good macro performance. I think it will be acceptable for amateur users who want to jump into full-frame on a budget, but wouldn't exactly recommend it as a separate purchase. That's all for this review. If you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. For those of you in Croatia, you can find me in real life in Anigota store where I work, and those of you from other countries, please use Amazon affiliate links as I get a small commission for every purchase. Thanks for watching.